Yes, I should relax then.
Yeah. First of all, I want to know, how is your thumb after all that years?
Right. Taped up.
Yeah.
And it's just, people ask me a lot what that is, but it is just gaffa-tape.
Yeah.
Which is rock and roll runs on gaffa-tape. It's everything. It sticks the cables down, it holds the curtains up.
Yeah.
And in 1981, funnily enough, when we first came to Germany, I split my thumb when I was playing the bass, and oh my goodness, it was so painful.
Yeah.
Right along the knuckle.
Wow.
And so we had so many more shows to do, so I just tore off some tape, put it around my thumb, and I've done that ever since. So 41 years now.
Okay. So what bass are you playing today at the moment?
I've gone back to my original JDs.
Yeah.
Because when we were in lockdown, I mean, they're beautiful basses. All the basses I've used have been lovely instruments, and I still, of course, have them all.
Yeah.
But when I was in lockdown, I found it very, very inspiring.
Yeah.
So I sort of didn't play for a long, long time. And when I knew that we were coming to the end of lockdown and we had a festival to prepare for, and that's the time I practiced, because I need to get my fingers, get the calluses going.
Yeah.
I sort of walked in the studio and I just looked at the old JD hanging up, and so I got it down, plugged it in, and it took me straight back to 1980, because that's the first bass I ever actually owned. And it was so nice and such good fun, and I think because I hadn't played for such a long time, that it felt great. And it's like, oh, that sounds like me. I'll remember sounds, you know? So that's it. I've got a couple of JDs out on the road with me now.
Yeah, I think it's not easy to play bass and singing. So how do you coordinate this?
Well, it's very kind of you to say. I'm not sure I sing really. I'm more mumble, like a moose with its balls caught in a bear trap. But I quite like. It's something that I've done once again from the very beginning of the band, because somebody had to sing, and Phil didn't want to on drums, and Boone was too shy, and Mike's got a really wonderful voice, but he also, it was just something that we did because somebody had to do it.
Yeah. The band name Level42 has something to do with Douglas Adams' book, The Hitchhiker's Guide. What is behind it?
Well, what's behind it is that we were all massive science fiction fans back at the beginning, and that's why if you look at some of the titles of the early Level42 material, there's Dune Tune, which was sort of inspired by Frank Herbert's Dune. There's Foundation and Empire as a B-side on one of the singles we had out, and that was inspired by Isaac Asimov. Well, in 1979, Boone and I were reading the Douglas Adams novel Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and we both love the book. It's very, very funny, and they build this supercomputer and ask it the ultimate question, that is, why are we here? What is there a God? What's the point of it all? Yeah. And the computer said, I can work this out. I understand the question. He said it's going to take a long while, and he said how long, and he said, well, it might take 5 million years. So the people put themselves into cryogenic suspension, waiting, and then they all wake up, and then the computer's waiting for them. Yeah. And it said, do you know what? I worked it out. It was much easier than I thought. So I had the answer 2 million years ago. And the people say, oh, incredible. Well, what's the answer? And the computer said 42. Yeah. And they went, what to the question, why are we here? And the computer said yes. And the people said, well, that doesn't make sense. And the computer said, well, do you understand the question?
Ah, okay. So, do you have time enough to read a book today, or are you so busy?
I read my phone. The phone is constantly, what with emails and all that, and the other. I think life was much simpler before we had so much information at our fingertips.
Yeah, definitely it is.
I think so.
Yeah. Now you can look back for over 40 years of music history. What are your personal highlights? I think it's I know it's a long time.
It is a long time, and there have been many. I'm very fortunate to be able to say. I mean, there have been so many, and I can kind of break it down to like milestones, really, that for the band that we crossed. Like the first time we had a song in the charts, which was Love Meeting Love, the first single in 1980.
Yeah.
First time we got a television appearance in the UK, which was Love Games. That was massive for us.
Yeah.
The first time we got into the top 10 with The Sun Goes Down, Living It Up. It was produced by the Earth, Wind and Fire guys, and so on and so forth. And of course, no bigger thrill than getting to number one in Germany with Lessons in Love.
Lessons in Love,
and
yeah.
that was such a huge
smash
thing
hit in
for us,
Germany.
you know? And then there have been like incredible concerts and things as well. But those things still keep coming. And 5 or 6 weeks ago, I was really, really lucky to be invited to go and play at the Taylor Hawkins tribute concert at the Forum in Los Angeles. And I met so many wonderful sort of current musicians that it was a real joy to do. So that's another highlight. So the highlights keep coming.
Yeah. What is sustainable music for you? So music that
sustainable. What
that
do you mean by that?
Music that keeps for so many years.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So it's. I think that the music of the 1980s does seem to have lasted. It seems to be very resilient. It seems to last through lots and lots of decades. And I think that it's because there was a great palette to choose from. I really love new music too. I like new musicians, but the format and the platform that you get to hear it on has changed so much now. So you have guys can make tracks and videos in their own bedrooms or in their garage, and they post that, and you get a few people like it, and maybe a lot of people like it, but it's a different way. There's so much of it because if you see that one and you think, oh, I like that, suddenly you get and there's so many of them all the same, and that becomes a bit more one-dimensional. Back in the 1980s, when the main medium for us was radio, the aim was to get onto a chart. It doesn't matter which country it's in, but if you can get the charts, then you stand a chance of the local promoters will bring you over on tour. So a combination of radio, touring, and the odd TV thing. And that was it. That was your outlet.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So, what songs are you playing tonight in Leverkusen?
Well, we're doing quite a good cross section. I would like to think we kick off with a little medley of "To Be With You Again," going into "Running in the Family," which is from the "Running in the Family" album. We then jump right back and play an instrumental called "Mr. Pink." And then we go from that to The Sun Goes Down, which is 1983. Then we're into A Floating Life, I think. No. Then we're into Children's Say, which is back to 1986 again. Then we jump back to A Floating Life, which I think is 1984-ish. And it's just this cross-section that, it's nice to have a good catalogue. And then, of course, there's something about Heaven in My Hands, Lessons in Love, of course. And then we have another song, the Summer Song, which is great fun to play. And then we close the show with Hot Water.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a great show.
Oh, I hope so.
I watch it on the stream of DR.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
for spending
the time.
It's lovely to meet you, and thank you so much. Hi, this is Mark King from Level42, and you can join me on Jukebox on Radio Cologne.